The morning of the 11th of June 2026 felt deceptively peaceful across northern Illinois. The sun rose over cornfields and small towns. Birds sang, children played in parks. But meteorologists were not at ease. Overnight, weather models had shown something alarming. An explosive combination of heat, humidity, and wind shear was gathering over the Midwest. By 10 a.m., the National Weather Service had issued a particularly dangerous situation. PDS Tornado watched their highest level of alert. Today could be historic, one forecaster said quietly during a morning briefing. He had no idea how right he would be. At 3:17 p.m., the first tornado touched down near Winona, a small farming community in north-central Illinois. Rated EF1, it was not the strongest storm of the day, but it was a warning. The tornado snapped power poles like toothpicks. It tore the roofs off machine sheds and tossed farm equipment into fields. Farmers watched in disbelief as a dark funnel carved a path across their land. Fortunately, Winona's tornado lasted only a few minutes and injured no one, but it was merely the opening act. At 4:45 p.m., the sky over Streator, Illinois, a town of about 12,000, 500 people turned an unnatural shade of green. Then it went black. An EF3 tornado with winds between 136 and 165 miles per hour descended without mercy. It was nearly half a mile wide. The sound was indescribable, a continuous deep roar like 100 freight trains, mixed with the shriek of tearing wood and the crash of collapsing walls. Residents had less than 5 minutes of warning. Some made it to basements. Others crouched in bathtubs or interior closets. A few had nowhere to go. When the tornado passed, which took only 45 seconds, entire blocks had vanished. Multiple homes were reduced to concrete slabs. A man was pulled alive from the wreckage of his collapsed house. Trees were stripped of bark, their bare white trunks pointing skyward like ghostly fingers. Cars were stacked on top of each other like children's toys. Miraculously, no one in Streator died that day. But the town would never be the same. The same supercell that destroyed parts of Streator did not weaken. Instead, it raced eastward at nearly 60 miles per hour, crossing into Indiana. Near Hebron, it touched down again as an EF3. This time, the target was the small town of Couts, a quiet agricultural community of just 2,000 people. The tornado cut directly through its heart. Farmhouses were ripped from their foundations. Grain silos exploded, sending metal shrapnel flying. Century-old oak trees were uprooted and thrown into roads. One survivor later described crawling out of her basement to find her neighbor's refrigerator in her front yard and her own car wrapped around a telephone pole 2 blocks away. Again, by some miracle, no one was killed. But dozens were injured and nearly half the town's homes were damaged or destroyed. While rural towns were being leveled, a separate EF2 tornado was tearing through the populated suburbs of northwest Indiana. Merrillville and Hobart, home to shopping centers, schools, and thousands of families, took a direct hit. A strip mall's gas pumps were blown over, spilling fuel. The roof of an auto parts store collapsed. Power lines fell across major intersections, trapping drivers in their cars. Hundreds of homes lost roofs, windows, and garages. For 20 terrifying minutes, the suburbs looked like a war zone. Then, as quickly as it came, the tornado lifted and dissipated. Not all tornadoes that day were violent, but some were extraordinarily long-lasting. One EF, one tornado with winds of 110 miles per hour carved a path of destruction for 33.63 miles from Dwight, Illinois, northeastward to Paxton. It didn't level towns, but it devastated farms. Barns were flattened. Irrigation systems were twisted into scrap. Livestock was killed or injured. Power poles toppled like dominoes for over 30 miles. Farmers who had spent generations building their livelihoods watched helplessly as years of work disappeared in seconds. Even the Chicago suburbs were not safe. In Bartlett, Illinois, an EF1 tornado touched down near a busy shopping center. Witnesses saw the funnel cloud form and descend in under 60 seconds. The shopping center's roof was partially torn off. Gas pumps were blown over. Cars in the parking lot were pushed into each other. Shoppers sheltered inside stores as glass shattered around them. No one was seriously injured, but the image of a tornado in the suburbs so close to Chicago sent shockwaves through the region. In addition to the strong and long-track tornadoes, a swarm of weaker EF0 tornadoes caused scattered damage across both states. An EF0 tornado struck from Schneider to Hebron, Indiana, downing trees and damaging outbuildings. Another EF0 hit Street John to Schererville, tearing off roofs and knocking down power lines. Cedar Lake, Indiana, saw an EF0 that snapped tree limbs and caused minor structural damage. In Illinois, Osage Township experienced roof damage and uprooted trees. Boswell, Indiana, also had a confirmed tornado, though its full track was still being determined. Alone, each of these tornadoes was minor. Together, they overwhelmed emergency responders and left tens of thousands without power. When the sun finally set on the 11th of June 2026, the full scale of the disaster became clear. At least 30 confirmed tornadoes had struck across Illinois and Indiana. Approximately 550,000 customers were without power in Illinois alone, with tens of thousands more affected in Indiana. Hundreds of homes were destroyed or severely damaged. There were dozens of injuries, but zero storm-related fatalities in either state. A separate fatality in Des Moines, Iowa, was caused by a falling tree during the same storm system. The recovery took weeks. On the first day, search and rescue teams combed through debris. By day 3, power crews from neighboring states had arrived. By day 7, the National Weather Service had finished preliminary surveys. By day 14, most highways were cleared and temporary housing was set up. By day 30, power was fully restored and rebuilding had begun in earnest. The lack of fatalities was not an accident. It was a direct result of advanced warning systems. The NWS issued the PDS watch hours in advance. Tornado sirens blared for 15 minutes before each major tornado. Local TV and radio interrupted programming continuously. Public education meant people knew to go to basements, interior rooms, or bathtubs, and there was luck some tornadoes missed densely populated areas by less than a mile. One survivor summed it up, "The sirens saved my life. Plain and simple." The 11th of June 2026 now stands alongside the great tornado outbreaks of Midwest history. The 11th of April 1965, Palm Sunday, the 21st of April 1967, Oak Lawn, and le 22 juin 2015, Rochelle-Fairdale. But unlike those earlier events, this one had a different ending. 0 lives lost. That number 0 is the difference between tragedy and survival. It is a testament to science, to preparedness, and to the courage of people who refuse to panic. But for the residents of Streator, Couts, Merrillville, Bartlett, and dozens of other towns, the scars remain. Every time the sky turns green, every time the sirens are tested, they will remember the day the sky turned black, the day the tornadoes came, the day their world changed forever.